Captain Elias Kane had never imagined he would feel so out of place on a planet that glittered like a jewel in the darkness of space. Glimmering towers rose from fields of iridescent flowers, and streams of liquid light wound like ribbons through the streets. This was Valoris Prime, the home world of the Valorians, an alien species renowned for their intelligence and precision. Humans were newcomers here, rare travelers in a world built on exactness and logic. Elias stepped off the shuttle, feeling the soft hum of energy beneath his boots. His human instincts, a mix of curiosity, courage, and a touch of stubbornness, made him see opportunity where others saw risk. He had been sent as an ambassador, not just to observe the Valorians, but to build trust, to prove that humans could stand among the stars as equals. "Captain Kane," a melodic voice called. Elias turned and saw Liara, her tall, slender form shimmering in the soft light of the landing plaza. Her skin had a gentle luminescence, reflecting the colors of the city around her. Her eyes, large and expressive, seemed to hold the wisdom of centuries. The Valorians aged slowly, and Liara, though young by their standards, already carried a quiet authority. "Liara," Elias greeted, bowing slightly in respect. Though humans rarely bowed, he knew the gesture would be appreciated. "It's good to see you again." Liara tilted her head, a small smile curving her lips. "And you, human, are you ready for today's tests?" Elias chuckled. "As ready as I'll ever be." The two of them walked together to the research lab, a place filled with strange instruments that pulsed and hummed. The air smelled faintly of ozone, and holographic projections floated midair, displaying complex equations and diagrams. This was their world of work, a blend of science and subtle artistry, a place where only those willing to think in precise patterns could succeed. Elias had been working with Liara for months, studying alien energy systems that humans barely understood. He marveled at her intelligence and her patience. While she adhered to Valorian logic, there was a warmth in her approach, a subtle curiosity about the human perspective that set her apart from her peers. As they entered the main lab, Elias noticed how carefully Liara handled each instrument, adjusting settings with delicate precision. "You make it look easy," he said. Liara's lips curved into a faint smile. "Decades of training help. But humans, you have a different kind of skill, instinct, imagination. Sometimes it works where logic fails." Elias felt a surge of pride. Humans were not as advanced as the Valorians in science or technology, but their adaptability and creativity often gave them an edge. He had learned to trust his gut, and that trust had saved his crew more than once in dangerous situations. They worked side by side, testing a small energy core that pulsed with a gentle blue glow. Elias followed Liara's instructions carefully, adjusting controls as she guided him. "The energy must flow evenly through the conduits," she explained. "Even a slight imbalance could cause a chain reaction." Elias nodded. "Understood, I'll be careful." Hours passed, and the pair worked in silence, the hum of machinery filling the space. Elias admired Liara's focus, her ability to maintain calm while dealing with complex equations and delicate instruments. He had seen other Valorians become tense or frustrated under pressure, but not her. She was steady, reliable, and somehow fascinating. As the sun of Valoris Prime began to set, casting long shadows across the lab, Liara finally leaned back from her station. "Enough for today?" she asked softly. Elias nodded, stretching. "Yes, I think we've made progress. The energy core is stabilizing better than before." Liara looked at him for a long moment, her expression unreadable. "You humans, you are not always easy to predict." Elias smiled. "I take that as a compliment." Liara's eyes flickered with something almost human. Elias couldn't put his finger on it, but he felt a sudden tension in the air, a shift that made his heart beat a little faster. "Liara?" he asked cautiously. She hesitated. Then in a quiet voice, almost as if speaking to herself, she said, "Sometimes I wish you could understand us fully, and yet I wonder if I understand you at all." Elias blinked. Her words were strange, filled with meaning he couldn't fully grasp. Yet he sensed a weight behind them, a feeling she was struggling to express. "You don't need to explain," he said gently. "I'm here and I want to learn." Liara's gaze lingered on him. For a moment she seemed uncertain, conflicted. Then she gave a small nod and turned back to the equipment, adjusting the core with expert hands. But the tension remained, a quiet undercurrent that neither of them addressed. After the lab work, Elias walked with her to the observation deck. The city sprawled below, glowing like a constellation in miniature. Flying vehicles moved gracefully through the air, and distant mountains sparkled with crystalline formations. Elias felt a sense of wonder that humans experienced on few worlds, an appreciation for beauty that existed beyond technology and logic. "Do you enjoy this planet?" he asked. Liara's eyes followed a distant vehicle. "I do." It is precise, ordered, yet even here there is space for personal choice, rarely but sometimes. Elias glanced at her, noticing the softness in her voice. "Personal choice?" She hesitated. Then in a voice almost too quiet to hear, she said, "Sometimes I wonder if I could choose, if I could act on something that is not logical but desired." Elias felt a chill. Her words were unusual for a Valorian whose culture prized reason above all else. He realized that she was speaking of something deeply personal, something she had kept hidden. "I understand," he said carefully. "Humans act on desire all the time. Sometimes it leads to mistakes, sometimes to discovery. It's part of being alive." Liara looked at him, her large eyes reflecting the colors of the city lights. For a moment, she seemed uncertain, as if weighing the consequences of speaking further. Elias sensed her struggle. This was more than curiosity, more than friendship. They remained on the observation deck, silent except for the soft hum of the city below. Elias wondered what she wanted to say, what feelings she was holding back. And though he didn't fully understand her, he felt honored that she was confiding in him, even in small, cautious words. The sun dipped below the horizon and the sky turned deep violet. Stars blinked into existence, distant suns shining across the galaxy. Elias thought about humanity's place among these stars, how humans, fragile and emotional, still had the courage to explore, to connect, to take risks where others would hesitate. He glanced at Liara. Her expression was unreadable again, but he sensed a quiet admiration, perhaps even something more. Elias didn't know if he would ever fully understand the Valorians, but he realized that this moment, this shared silence under alien stars, was a rare gift. Finally, Liara spoke again. "Captain Kane, tomorrow I will show you something important. It is personal. You may not understand it fully, but it is part of me." Elias nodded, curiosity and anticipation sparking in his chest. "I look forward to it." Liara gave a faint smile and turned away, leaving Elias alone on the deck. He stared at the city, at the stars above, and felt something stir inside him, an excitement, a sense of possibility. Humans were far from home, far from comfort, yet their hearts and minds were capable of reaching into the unknown, touching lives and worlds beyond expectation. As he returned to his quarters, Elias couldn't shake the feeling that something had begun, a journey not just of science, but of connection, of understanding, and perhaps of discovery in the truest sense. Tomorrow promised answers, and Elias felt ready. Ready not just as a human explorer, but as someone who could stand with the Valorians, not only in intellect, but in trust, in admiration, and perhaps in ways neither species had imagined. The stars shone silently outside the window, a reminder that even in a vast, unfamiliar universe, humans could find their place, and sometimes even hearts could reach across worlds. The next morning, Captain Elias Kane woke to the soft hum of the colony's energy grid. The sky outside his window shimmered in pale gold as the twin suns of Valoris Prime rose slowly over the crystalline mountains. He felt a nervous excitement he couldn't explain. Yesterday's conversation with Liara had left him with questions, strange, delicate questions that stirred in his chest like the first breeze of a coming storm. He dressed quickly and left his quarters. Today, he would meet Liara in the main lab, as she had promised. Something in her words hinted that the day would not be ordinary. Elias had learned to trust his instincts, and they whispered that this day might change everything. Liara was already at the lab, adjusting instruments as she worked. Her movements were precise, but there was a subtle tension in her posture. When she noticed Elias, she paused and offered a small nod. "Good morning, Captain Kane." "Good morning, Liara," he replied. "You sounded serious last night." "Are you ready to show me this personal matter?" Liara hesitated, then motioned for him to follow her. They walked down a long corridor lined with holographic displays, entering a smaller, private lab that smelled faintly of ozone and polished metal. In the center of the room was a strange device, a glowing sphere of blue and white light hovering above a pedestal. Elia's eyes widened. "What is this?" he asked. Liara's eyes met his. This is my project, my research. I have been studying the energy flows of our star system. The Valorians have never considered using this energy in this way, but I think humans might understand it better. Elias felt a thrill of curiosity. Humans were explorers, adapters, problem solvers. If Liara was trusting him with this, it meant she had faith in human ingenuity, something few Valorians would do. Why personal? Elias asked cautiously. Liara stepped closer, lowering her voice. Because it is not just science, it is about trust, choice, and connection. I cannot activate it alone. I need someone who can act without complete logic, someone who can follow instinct. That is why I asked for you. Elias felt a strange mix of pride and apprehension. Liara, I don't know if I fully understand, but I will try. I want to help. Her eyes softened, and for the first time, Elias saw vulnerability in her. Thank you, she said. It is not easy for me to admit this. I have feelings that are not fully logical, that are not strictly Valorian, but I feel them and I want to act on them with you. Elia's heart raced. He had expected curiosity, admiration, perhaps professional respect, but not this. Not a Valorian admitting desire, confessing a feeling that went against the culture she had been raised in. He was speechless, and for a moment he simply stared at her. I don't know what to say, he finally admitted. Humans feel these things too, but you don't have to hide them from me. I want to understand. Liara smiled faintly, relief flickering across her features. That is enough, Captain Kane. That is more than enough. She moved toward the glowing sphere. This device, it can stabilize unstable energy flows in ways Valorians thought impossible, but it requires trust. You must place your hands on it with me. Together we will guide the energy. Elias hesitated. The device looked delicate, even dangerous. A wrong move could cause injury or worse. But he trusted Liara. Humans thrived in the unknown, in danger, in the impossible, and if she believed he could help, he would rise to the challenge. He stepped forward and placed his hands on the cool surface of the sphere. Liara's hands followed, close but not touching him yet. She studied his expression, ensuring he understood the responsibility. Then she aligned her hands with his. The sphere pulsed, reacting to their combined presence. Blue light flowed through their fingers, humming softly. Elias felt warmth, energy, and something deeper, an unspoken connection forming between them. He realized that Liara's confession was not just about feelings, but about partnership, trust, and courage. As the energy surged, Elias felt a vision of possibilities. Humans and Valorians working together, exploring the stars, building alliances, discovering things neither species could accomplish alone. He sensed that this moment, fragile as it was, could change the course of history. Liara's voice broke through his thoughts. Focus on the energy, Captain. Trust your instincts. You will guide it. Elias nodded, closing his eyes briefly. Humans relied on instinct as much as logic. He felt the sphere respond to his confidence, flowing smoothly under his touch. Liara's presence was steadying, a silent rhythm that matched his heartbeat. Together they guided the light, and the device stabilized completely. When they finally removed their hands, the sphere glowed steadily, calm and bright. Elias opened his eyes and looked at Liara. She was smiling, a mixture of triumph and relief. You did it, she said softly. No, Elias replied, shaking his head with a grin. We did it. Together, Liara's expression softened further. Yes, together, that is what matters. For a moment they simply looked at each other, the weight of unspoken emotions hovering in the room. Elias realized that this was more than science. It was a bridge between worlds, between cultures, and perhaps between hearts. Later, as they walked back to the observation deck, Elias felt a new awareness of Liara. She was brilliant, cautious, and logical, but also capable of courage, vulnerability, and desire. Humans and Valorians were very different, yet here was proof that connection could exist despite differences. Captain Kane, Liara said, breaking the comfortable silence. There is something else I must tell you. What we did today, it is only the beginning. If humans and Valorians are to truly work together, there will be challenges, and not all will understand why we act as we do. Elias nodded. I understand. Humans have faced many challenges in our history. We adapt, we learn, and we find ways to overcome. I'm not afraid. Liara's eyes held his for a moment, and Elias felt the depth of her trust. She was placing faith in him, not just as a human, but as a person capable of understanding, of partnership, and perhaps of more. Suddenly, alarms sounded from the colony's communication system. A warning flashed in red. An unstable storm was forming in the upper atmosphere, threatening the city. Elia's pulse quickened. "We need to move, now." Liara's face remained calm, but her eyes were sharp. The storm, it could disrupt energy grids. If the city loses power, the core systems will fail. We must act quickly. Together, they raced to the main control center. Humans were used to improvisation. Valorians preferred planning. Elias realized that his ability to react quickly, to trust his instincts, was exactly what the situation needed. "Liara, show me the protocols," he said, scanning the holographic displays. She nodded. "Follow my instructions precisely. Any deviation could be dangerous. But your intuition may help us adjust faster than Valorians normally can." They worked as a team, adjusting energy flows, stabilizing critical systems, and coordinating with other scientists. The storm raged outside, winds of charged particles twisting through the city's atmosphere. But the sphere they had stabilized earlier became the key, channeling energy to protect the city's grids. Elias felt exhilaration and fear at the same time. Humans thrived in challenge, in risk, in moments where every decision mattered. And here, among alien technology and a storm that could destroy an entire colony, he felt alive in a way he had never known. Hours passed, and finally the storm subsided. The city remained intact, systems stabilized, and no lives were lost. Liara exhaled deeply, her shoulders relaxing for the first time since the alarm sounded. Elias felt a surge of respect for her. Valorians rarely showed such emotion, yet she allowed herself relief. "You saved the city," she said quietly, turning to him. "Not just with your hands, but with your courage. Humans, you are remarkable." Elias smiled, feeling warmth in her words. "We did it together, Liara, humans, Valorians together. That is what matters." She looked at him, her gaze lingering. "Yes, together. And tomorrow we continue our work. There is more to explore, more to discover. And I want to continue learning from you, Captain Kane, not just about science, but about you and humans." Elias felt a flutter of excitement and curiosity. The journey with Liara was no longer just professional. It was personal, a connection that transcended culture and species. Humans were explorers at heart, and now he was exploring not just alien worlds, but a new dimension of understanding, of friendship, trust, and perhaps something more. As they watched the twin suns set, Elias thought of humanity's place in the universe. Humans were small, fragile, and emotional, but capable of courage, creativity, and connection. That courage had just helped save a city on an alien world, and it had forged a bond that neither human nor Valorian could have predicted. Tomorrow, the work would continue. But tonight, Elias allowed himself a moment to feel proud, alive, and deeply connected. For the first time, he realized that humans did not just survive. They inspired, they connected, and sometimes they changed the course of worlds. And Liara, standing beside him, had admitted she felt the same way. The morning on Valoris Prime was quiet, almost serene, yet a sense of anticipation hung in the air. Captain Elias Kane stood on the observation deck, watching the twin suns rise over crystalline mountains. The events of the previous day, Liara's confession, the stabilization of the energy sphere, and surviving the storm, still pulsed in his mind. Humans thrived on challenge, and yet he felt this day would demand more than intellect or courage. It would demand trust, intuition, and heart. Liara appeared beside him, her luminous form reflecting the golden light of the suns. She did not speak immediately. Instead, she simply watched the city below, her gaze steady and thoughtful. Elias sensed that today would be a turning point, a moment where decisions would shape not only their futures, but perhaps the future of human-Valorian relations. "Are you ready, Captain Kane?" she asked finally, her voice calm but filled with intensity. Elias nodded. "As ready as I'll ever be. Whatever it is, we'll face it together." Liara gave a faint smile, her large eyes meeting his. "Good. Today, we test the device fully. Its energy can stabilize unstable regions in our atmosphere, but only if we act as one. It will require instinct, precision, and trust. Can you handle that?" Elias felt a thrill. Humans were built for the unknown, for danger, for problems that required boldness and adaptability. "I can handle it," he said, his voice steady. "With you." They entered the lab where the energy sphere hovered above its pedestal, glowing softly with a blue-white light. Liara activated the controls and the device responded, humming with a low, resonant frequency. "Today we face the real test," she explained. There is an unstable energy flux forming above the city. It could disrupt our entire network and endanger lives. The sphere can stabilize it, but only if we guide it together. Elias placed his hands carefully on the device. Liara's hands followed, hovering close. For a moment, they simply held position, each sensing the other's focus. The silent bond formed in the trials of the past days. The sphere pulsed more strongly as the energy above the city began to respond. Elias felt a rush of heat and light flow through him. Humans were capable of courage, of intuition, and now he understood why Liara had chosen him. Valorians trusted logic, but sometimes survival required more than calculation. It required the spark of humanity, the willingness to act, to adapt, to risk everything for a greater purpose. Liara guided him through the procedure, her voice calm but urgent. "Adjust your pressure here, Captain. Let your instincts guide the flow. The energy will respond to your intuition as much as your hands." Elias closed his eyes briefly, allowing his human instincts to take over. He felt the sphere respond, stabilizing the energy above the city. Sparks of light danced across the room, reflecting in Liara's eyes. Elias sensed her trust, her confidence, and her unspoken feelings. It made him even more determined to succeed. Hours seemed to pass in a blur as they worked in perfect synchronization. The storm outside intensified, swirling with charged particles that threatened to disrupt the city's energy grids. Yet the sphere remained steady, guided by their combined focus. "You're doing well, Captain," Liara said softly. "Keep your mind clear. Trust the connection between us. It is more important than any calculation." Elias felt a surge of determination. Humans thrived on connection, on courage, on the ability to rise when the odds were against them. With Liara beside him, guiding the process, he felt unstoppable. Suddenly, an alarm blared. A massive surge of energy hit the city's outer grid, causing fluctuations that could cascade into failure. Elia's heart pounded. "Liara, we need to adjust quickly," she nodded, her hands moving with precision. "I am ready. Trust yourself, Captain." "Trust us?" Elias focused, feeling the flow of energy through the sphere and into the atmosphere. He adjusted, guided, and instinctively reacted to the shifting currents. The surge was immense, but he refused to falter. He trusted Liara, he trusted his instincts, and he trusted the humanity within him. The sphere pulsed brighter, feeding energy back into the city's grids. Slowly, the surge began to stabilize, the storm losing its intensity. Elias and Liara continued to work in unison, their focus absolute, until finally the energy above the city settled into a calm, steady rhythm. The storm had passed. The city was safe. Systems were stable. The crisis was over. Elias exhaled, feeling a wave of relief and triumph. Liara released her hands from the sphere, turning to face him with a smile that radiated pride and admiration. "You did it," she said softly, her eyes reflecting a mixture of awe and something deeper. "We did it." Elias shook his head, grinning. "No, we did it together. Humans, Valorians together, that is what matters." For a moment they stood in silence, watching the calm city below. The twin suns cast long shadows across the landscape, highlighting the beauty of the alien world. Elias felt a profound sense of accomplishment, not just for saving the city, but for proving that humans could rise to challenges in ways that inspired trust and admiration across species. Liara's expression grew softer. "Captain Kane, there is more to this than the sphere, more than the storm. What we achieved today, it shows what humans and Valorians can accomplish together. But there is another lesson." Elias raised an eyebrow. "And what is that?" She took a deep breath. "That trust, courage, and even desire can bridge worlds. It is not enough to think logically. One must feel, one must act with the heart as well as the mind. That is why I am glad I confessed my feelings to you. You understand more than just science. You understand connection." Elias felt warmth in his chest. Her confession was no longer a private thought. It had become part of their shared journey. Humans were emotional, yes, but that emotion could inspire, guide, and achieve wonders. He realized that this bond, born from crisis and trust, was as meaningful as any discovery. "Liara," he said, his voice firm yet gentle. "I don't know what the future holds, but I do know this. Humans act on courage, on curiosity, and on heart. And I am glad to share this with you. Together we can face anything." Her eyes glimmered. "Together," she repeated. As they left the lab, Elias noticed other Valorians observing them. Some looked puzzled, others impressed. A few seemed uncomfortable with the humans' presence in Liara's work, but Elias felt no fear. Humans had faced skepticism and doubt throughout history, and they thrived despite it. Over the next days, Elias and Liara continued to work together, exploring new applications of the sphere and its energy stabilization abilities. Their bond strengthened, built on trust, collaboration, and mutual admiration. Every challenge they faced reminded Elias of humanity's greatest qualities: courage, ingenuity, and the ability to connect deeply, even with beings vastly different from themselves. One evening, as the twin suns set and the sky turned violet, Elias and Liara stood on the observation deck. The city below glowed with life, the grid stabilized, the atmosphere calm. The energy sphere pulsed softly in the lab behind them, a symbol of their cooperation and shared success. "Captain Kane," Liara said, her voice quiet but steady, "you have shown me that humans are capable of more than I ever imagined: courage, instinct, and heart. You inspire me not just as a colleague, but as a partner." Elias felt a surge of pride and warmth. "And you inspire me, Liara. Valorians are brilliant, disciplined, and wise, but you've shown me that even logic can be guided by heart. That is something humans understand deeply." They stood together in silence, the twin suns casting long golden beams across their faces. In that moment, Elias realized that humans did not just survive, they inspired change, formed bonds, and achieved the impossible. Their connection with Liara was proof of that. The night came, stars blinking into existence across the alien sky. Elias thought of Earth, of humanity's long history of exploration and discovery. Humans had always reached for the unknown, faced danger with courage, and forged connections where none seemed possible. Here, on Valoris Prime, he had done the same. Liara placed a hand lightly on his arm. "Captain Kane, whatever the future holds, whatever challenges come, I want you to know I trust you, completely." Elias looked at her, understanding the depth of her words. Trust was more than science, more than collaboration. It was the bridge between worlds, the spark that could ignite progress and connection across the galaxy. "I trust you too, Liara," he said, "and together we will face whatever comes next." As they gazed at the stars, Elias felt a profound sense of hope. Humans were small, fragile, and emotional, but capable of courage, ingenuity, and connection. Today, he had proven that once again. And beside him, Liara, the brilliant Valorian who had confessed her desire for understanding, trust, and partnership, stood ready to face the future with him. The galaxy was vast, full of challenges, discoveries, and wonders. Yet with courage, trust, and heart, humans could rise to any occasion, inspire change, and leave a mark among the stars. And together, Elias and Liara had begun that journey, proving that connection, collaboration, and a little human spirit could achieve the extraordinary. The lights of Valoris Prime shone below, the twin suns set in the distance. Elias smiled, ready to face the universe, not just as a human explorer, but as a pioneer of connection, trust, and courage. Together, they stepped into the future.